when we say the current social order, we're talking about the economy, we're talking about the political system, and we're talking about everybody who's caught up in all the systems that we are just rolling through.
Welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, hosted by me, soul-fueled storyteller Kylie Fatchett. We dive into the truth-talking, unedited stories of metamorphosis, growth, and evolution. I deeply believe that sharing our stories holds transformative magic. Join us to listen to future humans, change agents, extraordinary ordinary people, healers, and paradigm shifters as we honor the power of our messy, magical stories. Let's get wild and finally fucking free together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast once again. I know this is going to be a juicy conversation before we even start, the beautiful Dr. Tammy Ben-Shaul in the studio. Got the pronunciation right. Hello, Tammy. How are you?
Really good.
Oh, I'm so excited to have this chat. We were connected by a mutual friend of ours, the beautiful Kirsten Baus. Now, I know you have so many dimensions of things that you marinate in terms of personal and professional focus. So for those who don't already know you and your work, would you like to explain who you are, what you do, however you would like to?
Yes. Well, right now I can say that I'm the official founder of Sacred Psychology, which is it's a comprehensive kind of finally birthing a 10-year process.
Oh, so good.
I know, of the last 30 years, I guess, of my work and my research and my learning and practices, and starting to offer it outside the clinical space. I guess that's the main thing. That's why it moves away from, that kind of clinical psychologist.com thing.
Yeah. The APRA box. Yes, that's what I like to call that.
Yeah, I'm on the way out.
So for those of you who are listening from other countries, APRA is the governing body, is it a governing body? It's an association for psychologists. So it sets professional standards. It also means that psychologists need to play inside of a very clearly defined box, which then diminishes their ability to help people on all levels that they can, in my humble opinion. Anyway.
You're beyond correct.
Now, what sort of work have you done? And because you have many, like, as you said, sacred psychology. I love the fact that you've used that, because to me, it's almost a paradox in my head, right? It's like psychology in the box does not actually look at me.
Reframing.
Yeah. So tell us more about that.
Well, I mean, I've been a psychologist for a really long time, and I've been trained in a way that was, it had a real depth to it. And it was very comprehensive, and it was beautifully relational. And that was good, but it wasn't like all psychology, it wasn't particularly including women. And shocking.
Yes, I know. Crazy.
Crazy that. And I had actually started my studies, and after the first year of having electives, I'd already, not coincidentally, fell into a class of women's studies, what was used to be called women's studies in the 90s.
Yep.
And it just blew my mind. It really reframed everything I knew about humans and myself. Really reframed everything. And then I was ready to leave psychology. Fortunately enough, the year after I did the women's studies, there was a professor who came to the university that I was at, teaching women's psychology. So she brought me back to it. And that was perfect, because I started doing all my research. So my honors research and then my master's research I was already doing in a different country. And then my PhD were all around women's identity and self-development through the relationships, all the relationships. So this relationship.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And it was really good.
Sorry. I want to go back to what drew you to women's studies? Like what, because I'm always, when I do these
Nothing.
interviews. Oh, really? So
Yeah,
what kept
friend.
your interest?
Oh, a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should take this elective. It'll be cool." I took
So
this elective. It
cool.
was interesting. I don't know about it. It was feminism, hardcore feminism.
Yep, yep,
It was
yep, yep, yep,
radical
yep.
feminism. It was not what we see out there, not in politics, not in the health system, not in the education system, certainly not at universities. It was nicely delivered, hardcore, radical. And from there on, that was my uh, framework.
Yeah,
It just
yeah, yeah,
turned
yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything upside down. How do we have enough of feminism so that we don't need it anymore? So that it doesn't
Oh,
yeah,
a
it's not we don't need it.
self-liberating concept. I
Yeah.
love the fact that women's studies is such a diluted, like, pleased up version of actually what radical feminism is. So I'm so glad that whoever was the smart person that labeled it in a way that made it accessible, but actually delivered what they really wanted to underneath the label.
Oh, yeah.
What did you learn in that study or in that year of that program that surprised you?
I learned that everything I had ever thought was my problem was society.
Collective, yeah.
Everything was culture and society. So
Mhm, mhm,
everything that I had experienced in the world, which many, 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 many of us do and
mhm,
did,
mm,
and teenagers today still experience it today just as much.
mhm.
Everything that is the body, everything that is emotions, everything that moves around, everything that are your thoughts, everything is actually like just being submerged in a social order that doesn't have to be. That really
Yeah.
just like it's actually we're humans, we can shift it. And that it's
Yeah.
a system, it's not the people. We just kind of perpetuate it blindly,
Yeah,
like
and
I'm
it's not
gonna do this.
reality.
No. No, it isn't. It
It's
really
not
isn't.
reality.
We can drop guns like this.
Yes.
We can practice menstrual awareness, but that I didn't learn there. That was like
Yes, yeah, later.
afterward,
Another layer.
years later,
Yeah.
years. But so everything, nothing like boys didn't have to be boys and girls didn't have to be girls. And it wasn't about gender in the sense of gender spectrum. It was I who, I just like don't have a petite blonde body.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that I'm not feminine.
Yes.
So it wasn't right. Like, so it was about my femininity. It wasn't about my gender affiliation or
Yeah.
orientation. Right.
Yeah.
So that I am fine whether I decide to have hair on my body or not, anything, everything, all of it.
Yeah. Anything I
Yeah,
decide as an individual.
my eyebrows, my everything,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. 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 Oh my goodness. So many hours of sculpting our bodies into someone else's definition of, you know, like like the coloring of the hair or the whatever, like whatever, and yes, there's a part of me that goes, whatever, if that's your thing, that's cool. Not my thing. That's fine. But
Mm.
if you're doing it to fit into someone else's model, then that's what I have an
Yeah.
objection about. Um, when you're talking about a system, what it reminds me of is when I very first because for many, many years, just outing myself completely, when I heard people railing against the patriarchy, I'm using air quotes, I almost rolled my eyes because I'm like, you can't blame everything on the one thing. Like it, it felt to me for a long time to be this kind of like off-headed thing that we just, oh, that's just that sort of thing. It's kind of like in the same vein as like, oh, that's the government or that's whatever. And to me, because I believe so much in personal responsibility and personal choice and freedom that it went that kind of, I don't know, putting it all in one basket didn't feel right to me. But then I remember doing an interview where someone actually explained patriarchy like the ocean that we're all swimming in. They were all conditioned.
Submerged. That's what I say when I say
Yeah,
submerged.
submerged. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we believe that that's just the way it is, where actually,
Yeah.
no, it's reality through a very specific lens.
But you also touched on something that is very complex, and that's the idea of free will. And that's
Mm.
where other things that come into sacred psychology really um, come into place. And that's sort of, the spiritual practices,
Yes. Yes,
the
yes, yes.
wisdom practices. the idea that we're not just a shaped product, right? Like we're dependent arising of everything that is around us. And
Yes.
so that kind of thing of free will gets lost very, very quickly,
Yes.
really quickly,
Absolutely.
because it's not, really, it's just everything. If you inquire into it and you take it apart, it doesn't negate responsibility.
Mm.
It really doesn't. In any area of my life, there is
Yeah.
immense ethics,
Yes.
immense, can't even describe.
Mhm.
So much that it often goes out of the system.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah. Yes. By
but
definition.
then that doesn't mean that I am actually the one choosing.
Yes. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Mm. So how would you, if we were to go back to like the very beginning of defining, and when you say the system, when you said before about submerging this thing that's actually a system, is the word that you would use to describe that the patriarchy, or would you describe it differently? Like what's your definition
I
of
call it with current social order
okay,
because
gotcha.
because I think that patriarchy triggers as much as it triggered you.
Yeah.
I think that it just I lose a conversation. When we say the current social order, we're talking about the economy, we're talking about the political system, and we're
Mm.
talking about everybody who's caught up in all the systems that we are just rolling through,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, very unconsciously. We
Mm.
don't necessarily really even think that we can just be something different. And it goes very, like, it's very tricky to talk with people in general when you've already had kind of, 30 years into feminism, 30 years into psychotherapy and the word relational. Not everything is really, absolutely everything is relational now, which is great. But everything is now known out there because of the internet. And
Yes.
so us psychologists can't talk about diagnoses in the same way or attachment systems in the same way
Mm.
or psychoanalysis in the same way. You
Yeah.
can't say psychoanalysis without people kind of rolling an eye because the
Yeah.
universities are even negating it. And
Mhm.
so and you certainly can't say yoga when you actually mean like a huge non-embodied practice,
Yes.
right? The death and the deathless. You can't say the dharma without people thinking that they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
And I
So
think,
I
yeah.
certainly can't talk about menstruality because people are so scared of the blood.
Oh,
That's the
oh
main
my
thing.
goodness. So
That's
many
the that's what
questions.
tied it all together. That's if you wanna fast track,
Yep.
then I can tell you that that's the key to dismantling the patriarchy.
Let's go there. Let's go there because what you're saying, I was actually having a similar conversation about the word somatic just in a podcast interview that I just recorded because I think it's great that social media allows more people to understand that there's a way of accessing, a felt sense in their body. But I also don't think it's great because then we have so many noisy voices that are giving maybe incomplete, maybe inaccurate, depending on the source, whatever. But it's certainly
100%.
like all of these things are so big that they can't be captured in a 2 second scrolling, social media post. And nor should they be.
Yeah.
Let's
Can
talk
I make
about
a
that.
comment about that one?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So it's hilarious because, we all know everything that's somatic right now,
Mhm.
somatic experiencing and somatic inquiry and
Having its time in the sun.
100%. And we won't name the names that should not be named because they're good people.
Yeah.
But when I sit in a reading group with my the people who work for my orientation, and they're all in their 60s and 70s, and
Hmm.
I talk about embodied sexuality and all the things that I like to bring into to
Yeah.
just do separate conversations. They've studied somatic things since the 70s and the 80s.
Decades ago. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
like psychoanalysis never not like never it never focused on it, but it was certainly there.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just yeah, I've gone and done, yoga teachers training course so
Mm.
that I could incorporate it according to the rules of psychology in the clinic, but it's not where my somatic work
No.
comes from.
No. No. Yeah.
The brain.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's about somatic
Yes. I
and the
feel like
menstruality.
let's just go straight to menstruality. So what you just said was the key to dismantling the systems is menstruality awareness. Please tell us more about that. Hey, gorgeous. We interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode.
Yeah. So obviously, anything to do with women's blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything to do, and a lot of what I'm saying, I do have to reference quite a few teachers.
Yep.
So we'll go. The direct one is Jane Hardwick Collins.
Yep.
He's the Australian one, the direct one.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other teachers that I've worked with, Deanna Lamb and with the Red School kind of crew.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all just like the gurus of these topics.
Yeah.
And it's been something that I've been working with through the Red 10 circles. And the Red 10 circles basically taught me, just from a weekend that I wanted to, to have something different than my PhD.
Yeah.
Basically the conversation around processing what had never happened, what was never honored, what was never taught, what was never looked at, what was never imparted, what was silenced, what was shamed, what was hidden, and bringing that and working with that and seeing just how many of my clients in the clinic can't even connect with their moods and their ways of thinking and their body in relation to the cycle, just blew my mind. Because it's kind of like once I've heard it, I couldn't not work with it. I'm feeling very radical as a clinical psychologist, like, was 12 years ago. to
Wow, that
start.
would have been radical 12 years ago. Far out.
I was just quietly saying to my clients, so where are you on your cycle?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Where are you in your cycle? And then kind of going between that experience where women think they're crazy
Mm. Mm.
to a place of saying, like, hang on, you just need support. You're
Yeah.
actually, hang on, you're just about to bleed. So maybe you shouldn't be doing all the housework.
Yeah.
And maybe you lashing out at your children is a result of you being exhausted.
Yes.
And maybe all the trauma rises. And that's what I started tracking in my clinic, that on the luteal phase, all the trauma starts rising and
Mm.
heartbreaking, because once the luteal phase was over and there was a bleed, there was relief.
Yes.
And then there's this kind of like building up, ovulation. It's not always fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've had a really traumatic life, then
Mm.
when you're in the kind of in the ovulatory phase, then
Mm.
everything's really intense and huge.
Heightened. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you start bringing in the moon cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and you see just these disparities and these incongruences. And they're actually, again, to link it back, they're all a result of patriarchy,
Mm.
because, women not resting and women having to be
Yeah.
efficient all the time and women not
Disconnected from their cyclical nature in the first place.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And having to stuff it and stuff the tampon in,
Mm-hmm.
and compare themselves to what they see on the advertisements and all that menstrual shame kind of culture. Yeah.
So what can happen when, because I'm interested, because all of your work, when we tie it all together, I keep on coming back to this women's identity and how women fit into the ocean or the, wherever we're submerged and all of those things. And I feel like, as you said, women's psychology, such a new thing because, women have only been around for 100 years. Hello. And that, I'm a scientist originally, and the fact that women's bodies weren't even included in science studies until the 80s, I think, in Australia. And I just think, how is this even possible? Like, that means that when I was born in 1975, women were not part of science experiments, but yet our bodies were subjected to the findings of like, oh yeah, this is safe because it was safe for women.
That's why I wanted to leave psychology.
Yeah,
That's
because
why.
it's so, yeah. But so if you're working with someone, say in clinic, and they become more connected to that cyclical nature and they start to disconnect from the messages and the conditioning, can you tell us more about, like, are you saying that we break the patriarchy or break the system because one woman at a time, we basically reject the system, we don't buy into the system, or is it deeper than that?
Well, that's what I've kind of had enough of, in the sense that I'm like, I love working one woman at a time, one woman at a time, and one man at a time, because, men are related to women and they really, really care for their sisters or disconnected from their sisters and want to understand their mothers. And so many men have realized through working with me that their mothers were just perimenopausal, or that their sisters were not connected to their bodies and they're not actually borderline personality disorder.
No. Oh my God. Yeah. I've got so much to say
They've
about that.
experienced trauma and they were sexualized and all these horrific things that beautiful men who come to therapy, not a lot of them, I gotta say. There's not a lot of men that, come to long-term therapy and really work out, really, really stick with the hard work. But working one woman at a time is, let me say it this way. When a woman understands that her autoimmune disease or that her menstrual pathology or that her sanity or that her relationship with her husband or her children or her mother are not going to resolve if they don't rest and if they don't advocate for themselves, it's a really long process I'm talking about. It doesn't always come until my clients work.
Yeah.
Not all of them really, it's the ones that experience most trauma and can't actually function otherwise.
That's been my perimenopausal experience. So when you were saying about luteal phase and all the trauma coming to the surface, I was able to push that down for the entire time. until I hit perimenopause.
But
And
that's
then it's
exactly
erupted like a volcano.
yeah. Yes.
Which has been a blessing.
Now I want to talk to the public. So
Yeah.
now
Gotcha.
I want to talk to the therapist. So the
Mm-hmm.
courses that I'm creating and the workshops I've created are geared towards therapists. So it goes to their clinic.
So you're reaching many. Yeah.
There's not that much interest. And then there's there's of course talking in festivals and talking to you.
Yeah.
Because I really think that you it's okay to learn the theory, but to implement it in your life and to actually go to your workplace or even talk to your partner about actually I'm going to in Australia it's really easy because there's granny. Yes. The granny flat every time I'm going to bleed.
Tammy, we're building my office in the garden at the moment, and I tell you, if it doesn't happen soon, someone might.
Exactly.
It's like the Hunger Games around here sometimes.
And I'm the mother that goes away a lot and dismantling the mother kind of technology.
OMG.
Yeah. Because I immigrated to Australia exactly when I hit perimenopause and I didn't know that.
Interesting.
So I had to start going to retreats to regain my composure. Yeah.
Yep. I went the totally isolate myself from the entire planet for a year route. Where I was like,
and that's what I think women should do. And that's what I think they should be supported in. And that's where I'm kind of like, do you see how pervasive the change has to be?
Oh, 100%. That's why I asked, like, how
it'll handle the system if every woman goes on a year-long retreat.
Yeah.
I just met up with a friend that I haven't seen for 2 years and she apologized. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
You're 42. Like who doesn't need to do their art or their craft or their message and disconnect and reevaluate everything that happened in life?
Yep. And I think that there's a natural wanting to do that by, well, for me at least, my personal kind of trajectory was like being brought to my knees on my 47th birthday, then completely reevaluating and completely cutting myself off from everybody and everyone for a good year. And then in that immersion, actually understanding what I really had the resources and the give a fuck factor, let's face it, because I was like, I don't care about most of the stuff that I do in my life. Like I literally couldn't care. In fact, it's highly irritating most. And so, I began to dismantle that way. And I am definitely very blessed to have had the space to do it as well, because I understand, I remember reading Wise Power a few years ago, and they talk about, have a year off. And I'm like, what flipping reality can we just check out for a year? But really,
they also said put the money aside. They said put the money aside.
They did.
So
they
started
did.
putting some money aside. And even though I cannot, I have 4 children, I have a full clinic, I cannot take a year off. And all sorts of other things because the world is spiraling, right? So partners lose their jobs.
Yep.
And that's okay because that's also like it's all right for us to rise right now. We know that, right? Like that's the whole kind of, this is what's happening. Like all the grass blades are coming up. We're all like, there's room for all of us here because there's a whole system to push out.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And the money that I started putting aside when reading Wise Power basically affords me to go on a retreat here or self-retreat here, self-retreat there, go for longer periods of time when I'm going overseas. It's just
I gotcha.
So good. So necessary.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
I want to bring in the moon for a second, just because I can feel like I'm not as sharp and articulate and like not my full intelligence. Like it's not my full intelligence. And I'm just wondering, like, if it's so helpful to know that during perimenopause you start kind of syncing with the moon without even knowing it. And you don't, just like you didn't know that you were governed by the estrogen and the progesterone, you also don't know how intense the impact of the dark, the growth, the waning, the waxing and the waning is. And it's just like you forget about it. And then you have like a shitstorm day and then my entire clinic has had a shitstorm weekend, and we're not even there yet. We're just there. It's just like week 3, and now we're like, oh, we're like in week 4 now with the moon, and then and people don't like to believe that. Like, I really, this is something that my clients just like don't want to talk about. But I do say, and then there's some receptivity, just like it's going to impact you. So we might as well mention it.
Yeah.
This is a double whammy, or this is an intense. So I
Yeah.
can really feel how my brain is not, if you talk to me in 2 weeks, I'll be a really
Yeah,
different.
yeah, you're on fire. Yep. Yeah, I get that all the time. And I'm like,
Not who's
oh,
slow.
I need
Yeah.
to learn to batch my different tasks according to the moon more, because I used to according to my cycle, but now my cycle's all over
Yeah.
the shop. So it's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
like that's not
Yeah.
an anchor point necessarily for regular. Um, can you tell us more about the moon and in terms of the inward facing, outward facing kind of concepts of like or is that how you see it also, that there's a time for being out there and outward and shining and being super articulate and on fire,
Yeah.
and then there's
Absolutely.
also a time to be resting and
Yeah.
inward facing?
Yeah,
Mm.
there's a time to, Jen Howard Collins teaches a lot the wisdom of the cycles, and I've taken that kind of
Mm.
map. Of course, she's, I apprenticed with her, and I'm allowed to teach it, and
Yes.
and that's what I'm trying to teach psychologists really, because it's just
Yeah.
the thing. So really, the dark moon portal time is similar to winter, is similar to the crone energy, and it's similar to midnight. So the
Mm.
qualities of the dreaming and the qualities of rewiring, replenishing, uh, all the rewords, basically, as she said
Mhm.
it, um, is a real at the visioning capacity.
Yes.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
really a critical time. So if a client says to me today, I'm feeling like shit and I have to go and present at wherever they have to present,
Yeah.
then I say, well, yeah, but just like maybe cover yourself up in a particular way or
Yes.
slow down. If you can acknowledge that that's what's going on, then you're already modeling and teaching.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And that has to
Exactly.
happen in the corporate spaces, and it has to happen in the
Oh, yes.
gen spaces, and it has to happen in every sector. In the banking, like they need
Mm.
to start talking about why there's mayhem at different parts. There-
Mhm.
There's so much to it. So I think that this retreats time, this dimming, like this happens. Like I don't know if you feel it, but I kind of like feel like this.
I actually feel like, especially when I'm meditating, because I have a fairly solid meditation practice in the mornings. When I'm meditating, I feel like I can much more easily access a much deeper connection internally to myself. Whereas when I'm meditating, when it's full moon, it's less easy to. So that's how I experience it. But yeah, I can understand what you're saying. It's like a dimming to the external, but more of an illumination on the internal, I guess, is what I'd say.
Yeah. So I think that, I kind of feel like I'm going to let myself go in the everywhere zone. And the everywhere zone is, of course, there's two aspects to it. One is, this statement that if you want to know where women's power is, look at where the taboos are. And that's, of
Mm.
course, there. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a juicy.
I think it's a
Say that
native
again. If you
American.
want to, if you want to.
You want to know where women's power is, look where the taboos are. I don't know. I know many of the teachers have quoted this before. It
Yeah,
might be. I don't know who said that
I've
one. I
actually
know
heard
I
that.
know who'll say the other one.
Yeah.
But this one is really around, birth and menarche and perimenopause and menstruation and blood and everything to do with giving birth. So I was
Mm.
talking about your birth and death and sexuality, all
Mm-hmm.
that. So all of those is where women's power lies. And no wonder that these are the ones that were over the thousands of years that it's took patriarchy to really evolve.
Yeah.
Those were men. So that's a real keen interest of mine to have everyone understand that, because at the other side of that there is that Native American Hopi
Mm.
statement, which you may have heard, with if women give their blood back to the land, men will come back from war and earth will find peace. So
Ooh, I haven't
it's
heard the entirety of that. Only the first and the second bit.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can tell you as an Israeli citizen that I'm very, very, very much
Mm.
about that, and I don't have time. There is no time. Women have to start bleeding on earth so they're connected to their wombs.
Yes.
So, and I am part of a circle called Wombs of Peace that's also
Oh,
related to
beautiful.
that. And they are doing magnificent work with all the elders in the world,
Mm.
and everybody can join it. You just search Wombs for Peace. Everybody
Mm.
search Wombs for Peace and join it. It's
Put it
just
in the show notes.
and it's not just for women. Anybody
Yes.
can join that as long
Yeah.
as they're sort of understanding that the circle is a few elders
Yes.
and everyone is starting to move the momentum of grief together.
Mm. Mm. Far out.
Because the
So many
nervous system, the people who are on those lands, right, whether they are Israeli or Palestinians, the
Yeah.
nervous system of these people, I've
Completely
been there.
fried.
I was there 3 weeks ago, so I can tell
Oh,
you, if the
really?
siren goes off and a missile is thrown at you, you cannot actually think the next day about how to do anything but save your children.
Of
So
course not.
it's really quite tricky, really, really quite tricky. But that's why governments need to go and people need to start being people.
Mm.
Really, you know? Yeah. So that's where menstruality is like, I feel like I don't have time.
Mm.
There-
Yeah.
It needs to be quicker. There's an urgency.
Yes, there is an urgency. So many things I want to go down the track of. I feel like I've been feeling into a lot around the persecution of women for power. It's been quite a journey for me over the last few months. And I feel like when you say about the taboos, to me, that's all of it's the sexuality, it's the magic, it's the connection to the cycles of nature and the ability to create, literally. So our creative ability, and I'm not just talking children, I'm talking, and to see the unseen and sense the unseen. So all of those things. And if we follow that all the way through, it's very easy to see how that has all contributed like to the oppression of all of those things through the system. Let's talk about, what did you say before? Current
Social
social
order, current social order,
order. I was going to say culture, but I knew that wasn't right.
social order.
How can we start? Like, I certainly know that there is a piece of and honoring what you're saying about working with groups and working with, at the corporate level, at the workplace level, at the etc. Where does a woman start to have the conversations in her own relationship? So let's start with the family unit.
Yeah.
And similar to me during my perimenopause, where I was like, I am actually not available for a whole heap of stuff. So my roles and responsibilities needed to shift significantly. And again, I count myself as very blessed to have a beautiful, open man that I partnered with for a long, long time, like almost 3 decades. So I had the sense of safety in myself to say, this is actually not fucking sustainable anymore. Like, I just can't do it. And interestingly, a lot of our conversation had to do with no one has ever expected you. Like, it's not an external, it was driven internally. And I totally agree, particularly in our family of 4. But if someone's listening to this and they're saying, I do understand that I need more retreat time and more not responsible time and more quiet and not being fueled by this obligation shit that is in the collective, where would you suggest that she even starts to have those honest conversations with those around? I know that's a big question. We've only got a certain amount of time, but what's a starting point individually?
Well, I think that it really the best kind of whatever pathway is to go with what it is that she does in her life. Whether if she's a stay-at-home person or a person like many people that I know who has had to drop off the rails, like never actually, let's go the most extreme, which is not that rare. Had to stop working, and that's not perimenopause. We're even talking about well before 25.
Like
whatever.
Hit burnout because it's not sustainable, however they're coping. Yes.
yes, an autoimmune developed
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
whatever childhood trauma came up, and they never even got on the road. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
or the mother who had a regular job and is starting to feel like this would benefit,
Mm.
or someone like us who is kind of in a supportive relationship. So it's where you're at, like what it is that you do. If everything is collapsing, it's probably a really good idea right now, I would say, to turn to any of those schools that offer these teachings. Start listening to the Menstruality podcast.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
if you are going, and then once you understand that you are a cyclical being, then it's easier to say it the next time you have a coffee with a friend. And then with that friend, you can maybe say it to, how are we going to talk to your partner? Because every partner is very different.
Yes. Yes.
And
Very
did
much
you
so.
start noticing how they are? Did you notice that I cook better food when it's like when I'm better rested? Or did you notice that I'm really agitated? Or I've been told that this is scientifically, Kirsten's work is, far more rooted in kind of like the neuroscience of things, and she
Yeah.
knows that stuff really well. Like we overlap, but really, we kind of um, joke that we're very complementary because I go
Yes.
very, very, very far into the spiritual, and
Mm-hmm.
she is
Mm-hmm.
spiritual. And
Yeah.
I, of course, I'm a researcher. I just
Yes.
don't want to be at university anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that you got to know who you're living with, and you got to know what the conversation is, and it's just about your values, I guess, and how the relationship goes. So we're not going to go drinking and partying on this date, but can we go on this date,
Yeah.
right? And I really, and everybody really wants to help, actually. And if somebody is not collaborating with you, and this is, one of my beautiful Dharma teachers will say that, like, if you are not being, how do you know whether to leave a relationship if you're starting to shift and change and you're not supported? Nobody has to join your,
No.
your meditation practice or your yoga practice or your nutritional practice. But if they say to you, just go to the doctor and take the fucking
Yeah.
medication,
Yeah. Yeah.
then
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
because so you gotta know. And I think that I do long-term intense therapy 3 times a week
Yes.
for years,
Yes.
twice a week or once a week, never less than that. But now I'm starting to offer mentoring.
Yeah.
So
I got you.
I will do an assessment of where you're at
Mm-hmm.
psychologically. I'll do an assessment of where you're at menstrually, and I'll give you a suggestion to go forward. And of
Mm.
course, when I say these things, like not everybody has the $300 a session.
Yeah.
We go sliding scale. We'll do
Yeah.
exchange.
Yeah.
We'll do contribution, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't need $300 an hour from every person,
Yes.
but I do need it so that I can offer this person 40 hour,
Yes.
40
Yeah.
a session,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
$10 a session, or bring me veggies from your garden.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know, brew me some oils. I don't care what,
Yes.
but there
Yeah.
needs to be some exchange.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Of
really
course.
not good for the self.
No, absolutely not. It has to be an
Self
exchange.
value.
I feel like as I'm talking to you, and I know we're running out of time, so I want to kind of bring our conversation to the point where I think when we're talking about, like, first of all, some of us never wake up to being in the ocean, and that's okay because the ocean is very real and very conditioned and very whatever. However, I do believe that there is a lot of women that are going, what the actual, what, hang on a minute. And I think that that's by design. I feel like we have reached the tipping point. We're at a pendulum shifting, we're just about, and that is why there's so many things that are crumbling and going, pear-shaped. What I will say, and I think just reflecting back to you, reflecting back to our listeners of what you just said about, talking to a friend or talking to you or I cannot underestimate sharing your perception of how this ocean is affecting you with someone else. Because I feel like when it's just us in isolation, it's too easy to be convinced by the ocean that it is your problem. And you said that originally, I realized this was not my individual issue. It's a
Yeah.
collective
And I was
condition.
23 and it was 1996,
Yeah, amazing. Like
right?
I didn't wake
So,
up until, many years after that.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was just patriarchy, right?
Mhm.
Like 2012, I learned about the red tent and the
Yes.
black
Yeah.
right?
So I think it's so important I love the idea of kind of marinating in other points of view. It's like start with the menstruality
Yep.
podcast. Start with what other resources would you recommend to someone if they
Yeah.
were kind of at the tipping point of this questioning?
Yeah.
Where else could they look?
I would read Jane Harwood Collins' Sage Essence.
Yes.
I would go to her website. You can download her story then.
Mhm.
I would go to the Chalice Foundation, and that's Jane Bennett. Yeah, she's in Melbourne. She's done Celebration Day for Girls, and she's everywhere.
Ah, beautiful.
She's around the world, actually.
Mhm.
I'd read Hagatu because it's fun,
Oh, yes.
right? Like, she's not my culture. I'd read The Red Tent. I can look at all the resources that are just behind me. If you're a psychologist, definitely, definitely look me up, but you can read all the I can say Carol Gilligan, I can say, these are just names. They're names,
Yes.
the people.
Yeah.
Can hop on my website when it's ready. I am tammybenshaul.com as well, but there's no resources there. It's just for
That's fine. By the time this comes out, we will be
that's right.
linking all of the things that
Yeah.
we've just mentioned.
Yeah.
in
There's,
our show.
and there's Christiane Northrup, who a lot of people don't like so much because, during COVID, she was very outspoken, but
Mhm.
really her, her book around the wisdom of menopause is just a resource book.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
really good.
Mm.
I think that's the overview.
That's a beautiful.
Deanna Lamb, Jane Bennett, The Red School, and Jane Harwood Collins again and again and again. And if you're anywhere in the world, I would do the Four Seasons Journey. Like you'd have fun. You'd be
So
supported.
tell us what that is very quickly. So Four Seasons Journey
is the School of Shamanic Womancrafter. Jane Harwood
with
Collins.
Jane.
Her school is the Four Seasons Journey is basically a whole year-long process of, I think, 8 weekends we were together.
Mhm.
And it just taught all these things again and again and again, and a lot of other processes. And you hang around women who do nothing but support you.
Yeah.
Nothing but support you.
Amazing. Because
And
so many of us are
the-
programmed
yeah,
to care,
yeah.
give, not care, receive. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
We could have talked for another 3 hours. You probably have to come back for another episode, Tammy, in the new year. But thank you
Never.
for sharing your wisdom with us. And I want to you don't need my reflection back at you, but when I speak with people like you that are still operating, that still there's that box that people think of as psychology, but people like you that are bringing in all of these different layers so that we're not just talking about it from a clinical perspective of bringing in spirituality and menstruality. It leaves me feeling like the world is going in the right direction. So thank you
Yeah, no,
so
totally
much
is.
for your time and wisdom.
Yeah, my
I
pleasure.
appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Wild and Finally Fucking Free. I'm Kylie, your host. And given that I know you would have enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow freedom seekers. Remember, being seen in all our mess and magic helps heal ourselves and the world, because the world needs more wild and finally fucking free humans. Have a great day.